I'm going to show you how powerful female privilege is and how invisible it is. This Max Blumenthal, he covers political issues. He's going to talk about this group that is being targeted by the British government, but because they are mostly female, they have resistance to what they're trying to do. You'll see what I mean. Max, would you please explain?
Approves all of these actions. This is all coming from the top.
Right.
And so let's step back a little bit. What is Palestine Action? Why are they such a threat? I think this is one of the most important things that anyone watching this should know is Palestine Action is being treated this way, and they're being set up in order to proscribe them as a terrorist organization on par with Al-Qaeda.
And let me just show people what PAL Action is, because I think how scary they are is very evident in this photo.
Well,
Palestinian Action. 4 of the 6 of them are young women. And they look like feminist women. Right? So if they're being set up, how come they're not jailed? Matter of fact, this redhead woman, she looks familiar to me. I think I've seen her before. So how come they aren't jailed? If this was an all-male group or mostly male group, I think they would be jailed already. But they're not. They have immunity as young women. Let's hear more of this.
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice photo of them, but they really are a threat to the British special relationship with Israel, if you want to call it.
See, they're a threat. They shouldn't be. There's only 6 young people. They could scoop them up. If this is all guys, they'd be scooped up, called terrorists, and that'd be it. They'd be behind bars. And notice how the 2 men stand like sentries. They don't have their arms around the girls. They're not holding up close. We're the attack dogs in case someone troubles our goddesses.
That. And they do engage in direct action. They use hammers. They use spray paint. They do vandalism. They break.
Wow. So this group does vandalism, smashes things with hammer. How come they're not behind bars? Like, even if you don't categorize them as terrorists, they still committed crimes. Blumenthal, how do you explain this? How come these young people aren't behind bars? How do you explain this?
Into facilities, they do stuff you're not supposed to do, which is considered law breaking, and then they get off. Why are they doing this?
Wow. They break the law and then they get off. Weird, huh? I bet if I bring up the fact that they're female, Blumenthal will try and brush that off.
What are they attacking? They're attacking, or they're occupying and attacking weapons and industrial facilities belonging to Elbit Systems, which is the main state-owned arms company of the state of Israel. And they have these factories all over.
This is the kind of power they have, everyone. These young girls can go and commit vandalism against, Israel, who's supposed to be so powerful. It has its tentacles in everything in the West. And yet they're powerless just to throw these young people behind bars.
Over the UK on British soil. And they'll break in. They try to make sure no one's in the facility.
Right.
They avoid hurting people. They attack weapons or computers, and there's always a clean.
Yeah, they do have good intentions, but still, how come they're not behind bars? They committed actual crimes.
A room that often has sensitive technological components, guidance systems, and they try to contaminate the clean room, which will often shut these facilities down for long periods. Then they go before juries of their peers, and the juries come in and they hear these are crazy radical terrorists who just love smashing things and they want to destroy our way of life. And then they hear from the defendants, and they realize Do
they hear from the defendants, or do you just see that they're young women and they refuse to jail them? I'd like to see experiment where if it was all like 6 young guys, we'd see how the jury reacted.
Defendants are actually rational people who argue that they are trying to save children from being slaughtered in the besieged Gaza Strip, and that the damage that they're carrying out is actually saving lives, and
Right.
that the damage that these Elbit Systems factories are carrying out are far more harmful to.
Why would they need a jury? If you're committing vandalism, you don't need a jury. Is it because they want to call them terrorists? Maybe that's the issue. But you don't need a jury. You just bring them in and say these people committed vandalism. It's throw them behind bars, jail them, right?
Humanity than what they're doing, and the juries let them off. Again and again, they get let off. And the factories, the cost of doing business is getting too high. So it's frightening Israel. This is so much more effective than any other form of activism on the.
Yeah, isn't it weird, guys? Destroying stuff, vandalism, so much more effective, but we men's rights activists, we got to mind our P's and Q's, right? We can't do anything like this. We're a bunch of guys. We'll be thrown behind bars instantly. And we wouldn't be let go by a member, a jury of our peers either.
Planet, not on the planet, sorry, but throughout the West, directed at Israel. It's the most effective form of BDS activism, but it's also very, it's a high risk.
Right.
You have to be really, really committed and willing to go down for several years.
Well, it isn't high risk for them. The jury always lets them off. So the young women there, they know there's no high risk. Not for them. This is no different than what Shield covered. Let's see if I can find his video. Let's see if I can't find it. Yeah, I found it. This is an important video. Shield for Men. Feminist performs abortion of Jesus on Catholic altar. So these women rolled in and pissed all over the Catholic Church. And as far as I know, these women did not face any legal consequences. Thank you, Shield, for making this video. So women know that they have a high resistance, if not outright immunity, to prosecution. You go on, Blumenthal, you male feminist.
Years to even take this risk. So these are very brave people, but they're also
They're not very brave. These women are not brave. If they were treated like men on a regular basis, they wouldn't be doing this, Blumenthal.
And they're
And
capitalizing.
also, giving what I see here, are they brave or are they just like wrecking things? And this could be just a very good excuse for
on
them
the fact that
to go and commit vandalism.
most British citizens are just simply not on board with Israel once they learn what's being done with their tax dollars on their soil. That's why in this case, as we reported,
Yeah, but all the British public, they're on board with misandry, just like you. Men are second-class citizens in UK. It's even worse than Canada.
we broke the story, I think.
Yeah, you did.
Just we didn't even put a byline on the article because I take full credit for it as an American, that no one in this, among the defendants, the Filton Six, were allowed to even mention Elbit Systems. No one among the defendants was allowed to even describe the target of their activism. None of them were allowed to use.
They weren't allowed. Well, they went in and committed vandalism. How come they didn't turn around and say, we're going to say what we want anyway? It's because if they tried that, there would be consequences, wouldn't there?
Use the term genocide or to discuss what's taking place in the Gaza Strip, used the term apartheid, and so on. So they were basically prevented from defending themselves while their defense lawyer was on trial for contempt of court for being too effective. People outside the Old Bailey courthouse, supporters, were not allowed to hold signs instructing jurors of their right under British law to rule according to their conscience.
Yeah, see all the British government, they have all this power to stop people from speaking or doing this or doing that, but they can't throw a bunch of vandals in jail. Like Blumenthal, something's not right here.
They were arrested for holding signs advising jurors of their rights under British law. So rights were stripped outside the courtroom, inside the courtroom, and as all this was happening, a new knife-wielding terrorist suddenly appears to justify banning the phrase "globalize the intifada."
Right.
And you could go to jail for 14 years for stating those words. So what?
Yeah, so you can go to jail for 14 years for standing up to power. But you don't have to get any jail time if you smash property. That doesn't mean anything. Right. Now, I'll skim ahead. I don't think I need to go any further because I made my point. And Shield made his point. These young women here, they have immunity, a certain amount of immunity due to being female. And again, they were so brave to commit these acts of vandalism. But when it comes to actually coming out and saying, no, this is what actually happened, and we are going to use these words, all of a sudden their bravery dries up. Is it possible that women understand what they can and cannot get away with? It could be something as simple as that. Oh, yeah, there is something important. One of the guys got out of line. One of those two guys got out of line. He's finding out he can't just do that.
And many of the charges were thrown out, but the most serious one is of his last name is Corner. I think it's the first time when a Palestine Action defendant was accused of grievous assault and bodily harm. Samuel Corner. Yeah. Okay. He fought off a security guard, or he
yeah, that's what the guys are there for. They're the attack dogs. So they get physical and then they get charged. And he had to be an idiot to do this. Because the security guard is doing what he's paid to do. Protect the property.
Was accused of striking a security guard, but the jury wasn't allowed to see the full video, the full CCTV, which shows that the security guard was actually whipping him and the others with a kind of like a lasso, or like an actual electrified whip or some kind of.
Then why didn't they run away? They did their damage, didn't they? They waited till everyone was out of the building to commit their crime. And then they do a showdown with the security guard. What if they had hurt him? It was a guy, so they probably didn't care.
Weapon, which led it to the melee or the exchange. So Corner faces the most jail time, and it's up to Judge Jeremy Johnson, former barrister for the police and MI6, to decide how long he'll go to jail for under terrorism charges.
So, and this,
you see, this is the problem. They wanted terrorism charges. That's what's holding them back. Otherwise, they would just scoop this guy and threw him in jail. Because he did commit a crime. Breaking and entering, vandalism, and assault.
this is a document, right, that you guys got your hands on.
Well, we accessed it the same way that British media would have, but unlike them, we were able to report it. Obviously,
now look, the UK is a authoritarian state now, but more importantly to me, it's a feminist shithole. And what pisses me off about guys like Blumenthal here, he's against all this kind of evil except for feminism. That's the one evil that he sides with. And Blumenthal, what's the point of me being freed, taking the slave collar off for one group of people, only to have it slammed right back on for women? Blumenthal's all right with being a second-class citizen to the women in his life. I'm not, Blumenthal. Anyway, I think I've made my point. We'll end it here.